Just wanted to get, for the last 4 years, you have worked with China and Chinese government closely on various issues. If there's anything, you are some kind of advice or tips that you're giving to the next administration and how they should deal with this very delicate relationship. Yesterday, Donald Trump said that US and China can work together and solve all of the world's problems. If you want to say anything on that. Thank you.
It's a really great question. I won't talk about it so much in terms of the advice that we will give to the next administration, but I'll talk about it in terms of how we have seen our work and the importance of our work. You've heard the Secretary say a number of times that the relationship between the United States and China is the most consequential relationship in the world. The decisions that our two countries make and the contesting of relations, the contesting of issues between our two countries has enormous consequences, not just for the people that live in the United States and the people that live in China, but really for people all over the world. We have tried to approach the relationship. Let me back up and say, when President Biden took office, he tasked his team immediately with taking a 360-degree look at the relationship between the United States and China and identifying where we needed to look at U.S. policies in the past, the policies that were handed to us by the previous administration, in some cases that had outlasted administrations before them, and to revise them and strengthen them when we saw the Chinese taking action that threatened our values, and where we can, and also find ways that we could work with them. So in terms of how we've approached that, so we have, on the domestic side, identified a few key technologies that are U.S. technologies that we believe are core national security interests, advanced semiconductors, for example, other chips and other equipment that we believe could be used for military purposes for China that we have restricted China's access to. And I will say a great complaint from the Chinese government. I've been in the Secretary's meetings with the Chinese government where they accuse us of trying to stifle them technologically. It's not what we're doing, but we're not going to provide technology that can be used for military purposes by a country that we believe has interests and values that are contrary in many respects to ours. We've also set out to strengthen our diplomatic relationships, both with China's neighbors and other countries around the world. And so one of the things I think we have been successful in doing is working not just with some of China's neighbors who have real concerns about the positions that China takes to menace its neighbors, to try to seize territory that is rightfully under international law controlled by its neighbors, to try to economically coerce its neighbors. But we have also brought countries in Europe together to share some of those concerns. I think when we took office, you saw a number of European countries who were kind of wondering about America and wondering about the direction of America, and were hedging their bets and hedging in many ways towards China, and we have reversed that trend. And we have gotten countries in Europe concerned about some of the actions China has taken in Asia. And we have gotten countries in Asia concerned about some of the actions China has taken in Russia, in Europe. And when I refer most importantly to the burgeoning security relationship between China and Russia, the fact that China is helping Russia reconstitute its defense industrial base. So I would encourage not just the incoming administration, but every policymaker to be very clear-eyed about the challenge that China faces, and to understand that the best way for the United States to confront a China with very different interests and values than ours is to do it with our allies and partners around the world, that we are stronger diplomatically, we are stronger economically when we work with other countries who share our values. And there are other countries that want to work with us on this question, and we've proven that over this administration. And then finally, the last thing I'll say, and I realize this has been a very long answer, but it is an important question. Despite the competition between the United States and China, and despite the issues where we have serious concerns, and when we go and meet with them, we are very direct about those concerns, and they're very direct about the things we're doing that they object to and they don't like. We have believed that it is in the interest of the United States to find areas that we can work together when it is in our national interest and when it is in the interest of the world. So when it's in our national interest, for example, curbing the flow of fentanyl, which has killed millions and millions of Americans, the number one leading killer of young people in the United States, where we have pressed China and gotten them to make progress on listing precursors, preventing the export of some precursors, or restricting the export, I should say, of some precursors which can be used to manufacture fentanyl, something we believe is in the core national security interests of the United States. We have gotten them to reinstitute military-to-military communications between our two countries to when there are times of tensions, to try and keep tensions from escalating into conflict or confrontation. And where we think it's important to try to work together is on global concerns. So we have pressed China on a number of occasions to use their influence with Iran. Iran's a country that they have productive working relationships with. Obviously, we can't say the same for the United States for a variety of reasons. We have told them that they ought to press Iran to use its influence in the Middle East to pull back the proxies that are such a destabilizing force in the Middle East. We have pressed them, our allies in Europe and other countries have pressed them to use their influence with Russia to try and get Russia to pull back from some of their menacing activities in Ukraine. And with, I will say, very limited success, but there have been at times in a few discrete areas where we have seen them make an impact, and I think that's an important policy to continue to pursue.